Hey guys, welcome to day 7, and today is going to be so much fun because as a disaster professional, one of my favorite things to do is disaster drills. I absolutely adore them. I do them in offices, I do them in nursing homes, I do them in restaurants and bars with my clients. We have so much fun. They're great, and I can't personally be with you when you're doing this drill, but on the 7th day, on the 14th day, on the 21st day, and on the 28th day, I'm going to give you a drill. Something I want you to do during the following week. So today, the disaster drill that I'm going to challenge you to do all next week is don't use conveyances of any kind. So no elevators, no escalators. Instead, everything is going to be done manually. So if you work in a location where you normally would take the elevator, guess what? You're going to be walking up the stairs, and you're going to be walking down the stairs. And if you're at the mall, you're going to take the normal steps. You're not going to take the escalator. Why am I asking you to do that? Because in a disaster, there are so many instances where people have said to me, I have to use the elevator to get down. And you have to find an alternate way out. I can think of a dozen disasters off the top of my head. Without picking up a piece of paper or looking at a phone, I can come up with a dozen disaster scenarios where the elevator would not be available. So does that mean you need to get used to being able to go up and down the emergency exit? Maybe. If you physically can't go down the emergency exit, then here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about how you would get out of the building if you couldn't take the elevator. I did a disaster plan once for a nursing home that was on 4 different stories. It was a huge facility, and one of the things that we did was we actually had a sled. I know this is going to sound strange to you, but there was actually a sled that we created where they actually could go down the stairs, where people could actually sit on this sled, and it would slide them down that part of the stairs to the next landing and get them all the way downstairs. Was it slow? Yes. But I told them we need to practice it now because we're not going to use the sled in a real disaster until we've tested it in a drill. I see this all the time when people go to gyms and they're working out and they'll take the elevator. And they'll just say, well, I can't get up the stairs and down the stairs otherwise. So what I want you to do is physically do this. If you can't go down the stairs, I want you to physically walk over to the stairs. I want you to physically stand there in the emergency exit. And I want you to think about how you would get down. If no one else provides a sled, if there's no other way of doing it, it may be that we have to add something to your disaster kit that is portable enough you can actually slide down. I actually have a client I worked with who actually was on the 70th floor of a building, and she physically couldn't take the stairs down, so we actually had something that was in her disaster kit. It was an inflatable that allowed her to get down the stairs so that she could literally slide on the inflatable all the way down to the next landing. Then she had to reset it and could slide down. It's not the fastest way of doing it, but at least it gets her out of the building very rapidly. And it's important that you do this because first responders many times will take the elevators if they have to go up. And when they are doing that, that means it's going to be tough for other people trying to get out. If you're in a very crowded building, those elevators will get filled very quickly. So I want you to make sure that you have multiple ways out of a building. So find out. So this coming up week, no elevators, no people movers, no escalators. If you're at an airport, guess what? You're not going to use the people mover. You're going to walk the entire distance. If you can't walk normally and you have to have someone assisting you, that's fine, but you need to practice it so that you know how to do that if you have to do it on your own, because it may be that assistance might not be available. So you might have the primary way that someone being able to move you, but the question I want you to ask yourself is, if they're not available, what would you do then? That's the purpose of this drill. This is Disaster Patrick, and remember, prepare for a disaster and you'll never experience one.